I am preempting my introduction to let you know that today is my first paint-along video. I made this decision after I made the video. So, pause the video after I'm finished here and go get these supplies if you want to join me today. You need, alright, I'm looking at my list to make sure I get everything. 1 4x4 inch canvas or block, depending on what you like to work on. 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch brush. I do suggest the smaller size for the details if you want to stick with using one brush. 1 script brush, which is that long, skinny, thin brush. You're going to want that for details. And 1 number 2 inch round brush. That's also for some details. You're going to be working in acrylic paints today, so you're going to want 1 tube of the following: primary blue, primary red, primary yellow, black, and titanium white. A glass of water, some paper towels, and a palette of your choice. I use disposable palettes because I am usually in transit and it is better for me to throw them out than to try to wash them down a drain somewhere. Okay, alright, so go get your supplies and then come back and maybe even save this video for a rainy day or a snow day if you're somewhere up north or in higher elevations. Alright, we'll see you in a bit. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Marion, the Inappropriate Artist, and today, still working on my inventory for the RTR. I'm going to be doing that for quite a while because it's not like this stuff happens overnight. So I'm going to choose an image and I'll post it. And today I brought the gooseneck that I have for filming in the van. So I brought it in here today. And I'm going to do my best to film what I am working on. Alright, here goes nothing. So as you see in the image, it's mostly a silhouette, and I've prepared my canvas with a really simple, basic linear drawing just to show me where to put the pigment. The tree I will draw in after the fact, after I've painted the background. A little bit. Take the water off the brush. I just like to wet my bristles. I am working with acrylic today, so I have to work from my memory as I just took a quick look at the image. And there we go. So I have been going back in my archives, checking out all the different places where I have parked and visited and photographed over the last year. And you know, this particular scene is of Jekyll Island in Georgia. I had gotten up extremely early, you know, as per my norm, right? I tend to wake up early anyway. And I had gone down to this beach called Driftwood Beach, as per the suggestion of someone I used to work with, and I was so excited. It really, you know, as you could see in the image, sorry, I am fighting with the hair and I need to stop fighting with the hair. Okay. Better. But yeah, so they suggested that as I was coming up the coast, that I stop in at this location And I literally got on the island and off the island, and right after I did it, they closed the gates. So I just made it before COVID made it someplace I could not visit. So as you saw, I was putting down the acrylic kind of in a translucent way because I really want that light to show. And now I am adding white to my pigment. There will be clouds that go over this, and I need to transition into blue. And now I have to clean the brush out because I want to get that luminescent color again to put, kind of bleed into this area a little bit. And I don't want any white mixed in for this. So see, I'm just kind of touching lightly over the top of the canvas. Let that yellowy color be behind. And now you'll see in a second as I come in on the area where I do have the white, this is going to act a little bit more like a glaze. And I'm adding some water to my pigment to so what I'm doing is creating tiny little areas that can be highlights for my lower clouds in the horizon. I'm still learning the drying ratio, like as far as how dark the pigment dries. I'm still learning how to work with acrylic and see how far I can go with it. I admit, I think I'm still working on it basically like it's a watercolor, or with it like it's a watercolor, just because that's such a habit for me. All right. Plus I feel like, hey, excuse me, keep going, young lady, keep going, keep going. There you go. And Nugget just wanted to let you all know she's here. She's inside with me. Now I'm mixing up my blue. I like to add a little bit of black to my blue. I'm working with primaries, right? So this is a very limited palette. I have primary blue, primary black. Primary black. I have primary blue, primary red, yellow, right? And then they give you like a green, although I tend to like to mix my greens. This is a phthalo cyan green. It's actually not a bad green to have on hand. When I do my really dark greens, I like to use that mixed with the black. It's been working nicely. But this I like for my very, early dawn. The sun hasn't quite risen yet. So the sky is still really dark up here at the top. I may have thinned a little too much, but there's some nice I also, you know, like with my gouache, I tend to like to blend on the canvas. I mix some color on the palette, but I really like to blend while I'm working, as you can see. And I like that it almost, you see hints of the black and hints of the lightness of the canvas underneath. And I can't take this darkness too far, as it has to graduate into the white down here. But I definitely want it to be a little bit more pronounced than it is. So I'm just pulling out some pure black now to run along the top edge. And I normally wouldn't do that. I don't ever like my black to just look black, because it never really is. You know, it's like a blue black or a green black or a red black, or, you know, it's always got some sort of a cool base to it. Alright, so now I can start and I think you can see, there you go, a little bit of a graduation of color. And now I added a little bit more water, and I'm gonna see how I'm going over half the line. Now the water is about thinning this bottom area out so that it can transition better. So I just put some water on the brush and I blotted it out. And now I'm coming in and just pulling off some of this color. Because I can. Rinse my brush again one more time. I don't want to pull too much off, but here we go. And with acrylic, you really only have so much time to work with it before it dries. They do have stuff you can mix in to slow the drying process, so you can work with it a little bit longer. I haven't played with those yet. So I'm just going to go in straight white across the top here. Oh, I got a little too much on the brush. You say too much? What do you mean? Because I don't like to start out too thick. I really don't. Okay. All right, so now I have this nice delineated line. I'm going to lightly drag this as to not put down too much color. In the first. Now I'm going to slowly kind of blend it in. I added a little bit more black so that I can move up into this area. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. I take the pigment back off the brush because I laid down enough and I want to thin it again and add a little darkness to it. Just added some nice deep dark blue grays to this mix. Up here near the top. With watercolor I would do this, or with gouache I would do this so differently, but, or not, you know, sometimes I've worked like this with gouache too. Alright, I don't want this to get too dry down here, so I'm going to come back in. Because I had that hard line, right? And I don't want any hard lines in this part. And I think I have a good blend. So here we have quite the blended sky. And now I'm going to take a quick peek at my image and see where I am. Okay, I did a little extra touching up of things, but I want to show you where this is now. I added a little bit of a tealy green in here. This is all about, because the subject really is the sky, and then there's going to be water. Now I'm going to add the cloud line, so I'm going to mix up a really dark gray purpley color. Fun! I really am liking these disposable palettes, although I know they're not terribly eco-friendly, but at the same time, with acrylics and gouache, both, they dry so fast while you're working with them. And I'm just remisting my paper. They dry so quickly. This helps to keep the paint at a nice wet place. Okay, so now I'm going to mix my purple up. And I've cleaned off my brush a little bit, but not too much, right? Because I'm making a really cool gray purple. Sorry, I hear somebody. You know, I just swept. So, let's see. I'm going to move this over a little so you can see how I do this. So I'm throwing down just the tiniest little bit of black, right? And I'm going to get some of this off my brush here. I'm going to grab a tiny bit of blue and my red. Okay, so now I've got a nice purple, and it's probably too much blue in there. So see, now I pull it out to where it gets watery. So I can see now how the color is going to change. So now I can add some more of that. Let's throw some red in there. And I don't mind that it's a little bit watery. All right. A little bit of red. Now I'm going to throw in some white, because that's what's going to, see? That's what's going to give it that, like, purpley gray, yummy cloud color. Yum. Okay. So now these are distant, faraway clouds. And they are right on the horizon line. And I'm not too worried about the perfection at this point on this little line here, because some of this is going to be water's edge and reflection in the water too. So, boop. So I've got my basic line, and I know that there was like a cloud line that came up like that. And a couple that came across. And you see, I'm just dabbing a tiny little bit, right? Because we want to see this great light. Ooh, got some nice deep dark something to mix in there. And when your clouds are in the distance, they are teeny tiny little suggestions, especially on such a small painting. So, okay, now I want to add a little more darkness to this bottom line. Creating a little bit of drama. Not all the way through, but just suggestions of it. And then we've got, gonna add more white to my purpley mix. And kind of suggest it down in a couple of these little spots. So, you guys are looking at it right side up. I haven't looked at it yet. And this is just a light. You can see I leave the And when you work upside down like this, you tend to be better at being irregular, you know, so you don't get that crazy too poofy looking cloud, because you don't want it to be, I mean, it does happen naturally. We've all seen it. However, whenever they get painted, they tend to look really contrived. Take a little depth here and put this down at the bottom. There we go. There we go. Now, I want to see more light under that cloud, so I'm going to take off some of this. I'm going to go back to my red and yellow combo to get a nice bright orange. And I'm going to use really condensed pigment to do this, so I want it to be a little bit heavier. And I want more yellow in there. Here we go. And I'm just going to touch the bottom of this cloud. Ooh. A tiny bit of exaggerated light. So we're going to do this in a couple of spots. Right? There we go. Let's see. I now need to turn this around to see what it looks like. Oh! Yay! Alright. I am happy with that. And now I am going to go in and do my water, baby. Alright. So, going back to that blue-black combo. Just slowly. There are those who will say use a ruler. I don't like to. All right. So now we've got water. We've got a wave line here. Okay. And you see how I did that? Very simply, but just trying to create irregularity. Well, trying to create, yeah, you know, in some, it is a trial. I'm creating little shadows that'll look like wave lines. Okay, so as you can see, now we are on the sandy part of the beach, and I want to show some reflection of the sunrise, excuse me, on the sandy beach. So, you know, when you are wet sand, how wet sand so beautifully can reflect the light, because you still got water, baby. All right. So now I'm going to mix myself a nice deep brown. So we're going to go mostly red, right? Yellow, red, and then tiny bit of blue. Oh, I got too green. That means I need more red. Too green. More red. This primary red is a very pinky red. And I'm finding when I want very natural browns, I have to consider also adding a tiny bit of black sometimes to the mix. Although this time I might not have to. That's a nice color. And see how it goes down. So now I'm just kind of weaving and letting the just trying to let the let it be a little translucent. I want this. And in the areas where I put down the reflective color, I'm just going to lightly go through. And kind of draw a little bit of this sandy color. In. Okay, so now we've got nice little bit of light reflection, and I'm gonna even, whoops, go so far as to now rinse off my brush and get a little bit more of that orangey yellow color on my brush. And it's almost like the color of mustard, you know. Just gonna go through and kind of hit some of these areas again, right? It's like just tinting the sand a little with this gold tone. All right, so now we've got cool reflective color on the sand. All right, and now I am going to take some of my black and I'm going to add water to it because I don't want it to be heavy. But while this is wet, I want to create some shadows. Because where you see, this is all going to be painted on top of once it's dry. But this is where the tree is going to go, right? And the branches. And as you can see, I'm using very translucent color, as I'd like the color of the sand and the light to show through as it dries. Yeah, I love the way the wet sand looks. While the camera was off, I went back in and filled in a little bit more reflection on the sand. So while this is all drying, I am going to grab a bite to eat. And I will come back and draw the tree, which is going to go kind of here in the foreground, nice silhouette. And then I'll work on the shadows in the foreground. Okay, everything is dry, and I have gone in and drawn the tree. You see, just a rudimentary scribble, really. And, you know, the roots in the sand. I've done a similar view of this island. So Driftwood Beach, Driftwood Beach on Jekyll Island was one of my first places that I parked for a couple of nights. It was one of the places that I found in the beginning that was semi-deserted. I was always looking for really deserted areas to park at that time because I left in March of last year. So going through all of these images has also brought back a lot of memories and helped me to flush out. It's been good because I've been going through all of these images and remembering things from that first year that I've been able to go back and dictate thoughts and memories of that time, and then file them away appropriately with the images, so that when I go to work on the books, I have some organized thoughts. So now this is like a slow process of putting it together, but I wanted to get started on the book, right? All right. So this is kind of this exercise, this building of inventory for the RTR. I want to get 2 paintings of each state that I've been to. Building this inventory is also, it's kind of like a study for the book. So it's helping me go back and select images that I really like that tell the story of my time on the road. There you go. All right, let's get back to work. Now, I never like my blacks to be hard black, so I am mixing in some blue to my black. Add a little tiny bit of water to my brush. I've got some small little puddles here. That's just enough. Don't want a lot because I want it to stay opaque. But I need a little bit more movement. Pigment. I am making an effort to stay in my drawing with these little pieces. I don't have much room for improvisation. Some, just not a ton. Painting silhouettes is a slow process of careful placement, really. I've painted this beautiful backdrop for this driftwood tree. I mean, that's the amazing thing about this beach, is all the intact trees that wash up on it. This one in particular just looks like it grows right out of the sand. And I am very lightly touching that canvas with that brush, and I want each of those branches to feel fine and delicate. Now I'm going in and painting what looks as if to be a root system. I do believe it's probably another piece of driftwood from a separate tree. Who knows? I like to imagine all sorts of things. This felt like a fairy tale land I truly suggest, if you get to visit the coast of Georgia, that Jekyll Island and Driftwood Beach is a place you stop. It is otherworldly, for sure. And now for some reflections. As I'm watching this back and doing this voiceover, I am remembering that morning. I was so full of gratitude for this new life, for as difficult as it had been up until that point, moving what seemed every 24 hours. I still was so grateful for the opportunity to be on that beach at the break of dawn. Something I never even imagined when I left. I had posted the day before that I was going to visit this island, or that I was parked on the island. And a former coworker just piped right up and said, "Go to this beach." I am so glad that I am open to suggestions. It has truly been what has made this journey such an adventure. Now, still keeping delicate, I'm using a number 2 round, in case you're curious, and truly just touching the tip of the brush to create these delicate little fine lines. I did draw it out in pencil, and so I allow myself to go just beyond that pencil line, because like I said, I am trying to keep in this area so as not to intrude too much on the beautiful sunrise. So here I'll take a little paint off the brush, and I'm adding a little stone over here. It is in the image. You'll see I work a little bit on the shadow of the hole that is washed out around the stone as well. Now I'll mix a little color for the face of the rock, where that first bit of light is hitting. Now I'll just touch up that fine line there on the edge of the face of the rock. And now with a liner brush, or a script brush, I'm going to go in and do those really, really fine branches and details. And if you're painting along with me today, just take your time on those detailed branches. Pause the video if you want to, so you can get them just the way you want them. No need to rush. It's not a race. We're meant to enjoy ourselves. And here I'm just taking my time, adding a couple of extra little details, touching some areas that I may have missed from my drawing. So almost there. I'm just gonna do a little quick check to see what I need to work on, and I'll tweak it out. So I did go in, do a little more adjusting in the foreground. And with acrylic, I mean, that's kind of the fun, right? I can layer without disturbing what was underneath it, which is what happens with gouache, which has its own benefits, you know. But yeah, so here you go. A little driftwood beach on Jekyll Island. I had a lot of fun painting this today. It took me way longer than it normally would, as I was doing all of this for you, and filming is very distracting, I've got to say. But yeah, it's this little beauty. I'll then go in and paint my edges like I do the other ones. But yeah, there it is. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you like today's video, thumbs up would be great. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to contribute, that would be awesome. My links are below in the description. Patron on Patreon, PayPal or Venmo or Ko-Fi. I am looking to still finish raising money for RTR, for getting to Quartzsite. I would also like to replenish my acrylics before I go, because I have a feeling I'm gonna need them. All right. See you next time, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.